It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. My guest today is Kyle Rossin, co-founder and CEO of MANG. Since 2015, twin brothers Keith and Kyle Rossin have grown each mangrove by hand for all of MANG's Florida planting projects. As MANG keeps growing, they're not only planting mangrove forests throughout Florida, they're also planting internationally in an effort to effect positive change in countries and coastlines affected by deforestation and pollution across the globe. MANG started its Buy One, Plant One initiative by growing mangroves in southern Florida and has continued to cultivate a culture for restoration of one mango at a time. Through education, restoration, and appeal, MANG is committed to preserving Mother Nature for the next generation so that we all can enjoy our natural resources. Kyle Rossin, welcome into the corner office.
Thank you, Brant. Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you here as well. And we've met several occasions, both here in South Florida. I've been so impressed with the work that you and your brother have done in the past, and really excited about jumping in and kind of getting the full history of how you guys got there. So before we, start talking about MANG and all the wonderful stuff you're doing to help with deforestation, let's start with the early years. Tell us a little bit about, where you grew up and what your early family life was like.
Well, funny enough, I'm actually sitting in the home I grew up, which is here in West Palm Beach, Florida, and it's pretty special. We've got 2.5 acres here, right here in the middle of West Palm, and we got to grow up in a little bit of paradise. And this home is now servicing our business, and it's where I accepted Jesus into my heart many, many years ago at a very young age, and it holds a lot of great memories and some poor memories too, right? Because that's what life's all about. But
Sure.
It's really taken me through many chapters and turned me into the man I am today. West Palm Beach for sure.
You got a twin brother. Any other brothers and sisters?
Yeah, we've got Keith and I. We've got 2 older sisters, Rachel and Chelsea.
They're not twins, are they, though?
They are not, no. But we all are about 4 years apart from each other, so we're nice and close.
Nice, nice. And what about mom and dad? Tell me a little bit about them. What do they do, and how did they kind of get their start in West Palm Beach?
Yeah, sure. So dad is an attorney, he practices law, and mom is a interior designer who practices interior design and biomimicry. So they both have had their own businesses in life. My dad's still a practicing attorney, has his own law firm here in West Palm. And Mama Mang, we call her, she actually helps out with the business and manages the property for us and gives us a safe place to operate.
It's awesome, awesome. And did you guys grow up as a faith-based family?
My mom is very faith-based. She loves the Lord. She loves Jesus. And my dad, he's faith-based, but he's not as deep into his spiritual life. But that's something I think with time, he can watch Keith and I grow in our faith and continue to bless over him. And I know he believes, but I don't know if his relationship is as deep as ours is now.
Is he still practicing as a lawyer?
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great. And mom's involved in the business too now, or is she doing other things, or how she spend her time?
Yeah, so she does a variety of things. She still practices a little bit of interior design for some clients, but she's really rolled back a lot. She's in a good pace right now. She helps us set up for events around the farm here. She also helps to manage some of the small things like checking in exchanges, keeping things tidy, and doing mom duties, you could say. But really, she's been a lot of the backbone behind the scenes, helping us, keep a good image for the brand, and always been a pioneer for sustainability and biomimicry. She actually holds a title called Director of Sustainability. So she's always looking kind of forward to what the material sciences of what Mang products are look like in the future, as apparel is kind of a little bit of a dirty industry in some ways if you're not doing the right things.
Cool. And thinking back to your childhood and mom and dad bringing you up, what kind of influence and inspiration do you think your parents gave you as you guys were growing up?
We said prayers. We always prayed for dinner and we always prayed before bed, and I think that was always really awesome. This place we've been at for many years. My mom used to always preach. Let the angel wings spread around us and protect us. Like
Hmm.
a hedge on this property, and it truly has protected us in so many ways. And I feel like God's hands kept on to this property. When I was 15, to get a little bit more personal, I went through a harder time in life as our parents divorced. And this property was part of the battle of that. And
Hmm.
mom won through the divorce, even though she couldn't afford to even keep this beautiful property. And somehow, through the skin of her teeth, through determination, through whatever grit she found, she was able to hold on to it for many years, even when there was no kids involved. And then when we were kind of getting a little further down the story, graduating college, she kind of said, "Hey, we could use this for business." And I said, "Okay, let's see what we can do." And that's kind of where the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial, wheels started turning.
Was it a family property that came down from her parents?
Yeah. So this is actually
Yeah.
from my dad's side. This is from my
Oh,
dad's
okay.
father and mother. And he bought this beautiful property in 1968. And
Wow.
then they handed it to my parents in 1993. So, and then we've been here ever since.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned school and college. Were you a good student?
I was an okay student. Yeah, I don't think academics was really ever my core, but I knew how to grind it out and get it done and figure a way to get A's, B's, and maybe a few C's.
What did you like? What were kind of some of your favorite subjects?
I attracted towards science a lot.
Yeah.
Science was my main subject that I loved so much, and particularly for marine science, anything around the water. It's tended to be my more favorite subject.
Were you walking with the Lord during junior high and high school?
I walked with the Lord, but the relationship was not strong.
Yeah.
And I know I prayed here and there, but I think I got taken off my path for many years, and did not live up to my true potential as a Christian in my kind of, we'll call it, late teens, early 20s.
Those
And
teenage
then
years can be tough.
yeah, they can be. And my parents went through divorce. We were back and
Yeah.
forth between homes. We kind of just got into a rut, and there wasn't a lot of leadership in the households. The household was broken. My mom was
Yeah.
not exhibiting strong faith, and she was broken in many ways. And my dad, it wasn't the center of our lives. Was not the Bible. And I think if it was, we would have been in a much different spot today.
Yeah.
And as far as development in a lot of ways, but also just you know where we were pioneering ourselves in the world, and our impact.
How'd you keep yourself on track during those years? Was there outside interests? You mentioned fishing, obviously, sports, other types of things that you got involved with during those high school years.
Yeah, I picked up a job. Yeah, so I was one of, I went to a private school. I was blessed to be in a great school here in West Palm called Cardinal Newman. But then from there, I picked up a job at a marina, actually. And I used to work 2 days a week during school weeks. So Saturday, Sunday, I was busy working the docks. And then during the summer, I worked full time. So I kept myself working really. So that's kind of just, I fell into it. I always wanted to work. I like making money.
Yeah.
Like to, we had a truck in high school that was, that I ended up putting a lot of my money into and learning. I learned how to spend money quickly, poorly. And I think that was a good lesson.
Yeah.
That was a really good lesson. And then, but it definitely kept my head on straight, which was good. And then I also played
Did you?
sports. Yeah, I played
Yeah.
lacrosse, which is an amazing sport. And my
Yeah.
dad actually coached our lacrosse team, both varsity, junior, and also in our middle school team too. And he was, we call him Coach Man. He's the man. He was always there for our sports and supported us through that, which was awesome.
Did you have some good mentoring, either from coaches or, the outside folks, maybe it's guys that you worked with at the docks that kind of helped you through those tough times?
It's a good question. I don't think I understood what the term mentor was at the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't a big influence. I've always had these great men around me, but I always had to prod questions to get answers. It wasn't like they were spilling over their overflow to me. But there was definitely some solid guys. There was a guy named Captain Kyle. He was super supportive when I was first, 15-year-old learning how to drive boats and, and washing them and teaching me the ropes. He was cool. So naturally, my name Kyle, his name Kyle. They used to call me Junior because I was kind of under
Super
Kyle's
cool.
wing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was always real supportive, but I don't know if I had any strong mentors in my younger years. And man, I wish I would have known what a good mentor would have done for my life younger, and seek that a little bit more would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. Was it always kind of assumed you'd go to college? Was there any question about that as you kind of got through your high school years?
Well, my parents were gung ho on college. I always knew I
Yeah.
was going.
Yeah. And did both you and your brother go to Florida Gulf?
We both started at Florida Gulf Coast, and then
Yeah.
Keith took a liking to some horticultural stuff, but also he had some immense health issues. Keith and I both actually have had we have rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune,
Mm.
so we deal with pain and inflammation, and our body beating us up about every day of the week.
Mm.
It hit Keith at a much later time in life, while I was actually 2 years old when I was first diagnosed. So my whole life was basically battling this disease and not understanding what the root cause was. But now we know a little bit more about health and nutrition and food,
Yeah.
and there's medicines out there that are a lot better. So the world's really turning a leaf as far as what we put into our bodies and what's good and what's bad. We have a much better understanding, which helps out a lot when you're focused on your health.
Have you gotten some relief with that, with some of those remedies and direction?
Yeah, starting to get some relief. It's definitely it hits you in different cycles. There'd be years where you don't really have a lot of inflammation, and then it kind of hits you again. I'm in a cycle of where I have a decent bit of inflammation. So it's just about trying to maintain it and figure out how to get through it. And then, what are the best steps for it? Is it practical medicine? Is it homeopathic stuff? And you just kind of learn your body, and staying active is really the big trick to, exercise, keeping your energy up and keep moving.
Yeah. Well, you chose environmental studies, which, isn't probably one of those degrees that everybody says, hey, that's what I want to grow up to be. Did you have an idea that's what you wanted to do when you went to the Florida Gulf Coast right away? Or is that something you kind of, spun around with and eventually found as you got through your years of college?
Yeah, actually, no, it wasn't my start. I actually wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to follow dad's footsteps, and my
Sure.
grandfather's an attorney as well. So
Yeah.
they, I thought about doing environmental law, and then used to call my dad and, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And he would say, I'm working, son. And I'm like, man, that doesn't sound too much fun,
That turned
you
you
know.
off pretty quickly.
Well, it's like it's his weekend. I'm like, hey, he's working, and what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm reading this and dictating that, and I got a deposition next week and got to prepare for this. And he says, I don't know if that sounds like something I want to commit my life to. And my dad is
You're already
always,
starting to like the outdoors. Yeah.
yeah, my dad is he supported us so well. I mean, he always put a roof over our heads, and he said, I really enjoy being an attorney, but I support what you guys are doing, or I
Mm,
support whatever you want to do in life. And
yeah.
being an attorney is good, but it's not the most has its ups and downs, I think is what he was saying, and when you do something for long enough and it doesn't have a lot of change, I think that also can impact you as well.
Yeah.
Being stuck in the same seat for 40 years, I think I might go crazy. So,
So did you and Keith graduate at the same time, even though he changed schools?
yeah, we graduated pretty close to each other. I graduated in 2015, and he actually
Yeah.
ended up graduating in 2016 because he
Got it.
switched his degree. He got super into plants. Actually, he wanted to grow food for the world. He
Yeah.
wanted to pioneer how we could feed people because we were going through this health venture where we wanted to grow healthy food for ourselves, but not only for
Right.
ourselves, figure out how we can sell that to other people.
Well,
And
you
then
quickly
yeah,
thereafter founded Mang.
yep,
And just for those that don't know, Mang is more than just a business, right? It's a community of like-minded individuals out to change the world one mangrove at a time. So tell us a little bit about kind of the backstory. What led you brothers to do this? How was God involved, if at all? And boy, it's coming straight out of school and going right into a business. That doesn't happen all that often. So give us a little bit of the early story, the backstory of Mang.
yeah, sure. So mom has always pushed a level for the environment. She's a very good steward for that and always has been what I guess you could call a green thumb. We've got every exotic plant on this property you can think of because she just loves plants and life and what
Mm,
God's created for us, and enjoying that. But when I made the switch from, okay, I'm not going to be an attorney, I'm gonna focus in on environmental studies and see where that road takes me, it started to kind of open up this huge pool of, okay, there is a lot of problems in the world and there's not a lot of solutions to those problems. And, there weren't a lot of companies doing active work either, where they're doing things beyond writing a check. So I fell in love with fishing on the west coast of Florida. I loved inshore fishing, sight cast for redfish and snook and trout. And one of my good buddies and I were in a science class, I think it was oceanography. And he goes, we're staring at a stand of mangroves at the school's marine lab. And he goes, wouldn't it be cool to do a mangrove camo? And I said, you know what? It would be pretty cool to do a mangrove camo. And that little spit of an idea, just that little spit develops hours of conversation into how do we create a brand around a mangrove camo. You think about real tree camo, these other camouflages out there. Do you license it? Do you create a brand around it? What's the message? And as these conversations developed, we had, a name. It was Mangrove Monkey, and then it was Mangrove Junkie, and we drew these logos, and we embroidered on some hats and started developing this idea. And we knew we wanted to work with mangroves in some capacity, because I was actually teaching about oysters and mangroves at Rookery Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve down in Naples. It was one of my internships, and we love the education side. And then Keith loves plants, and then we're at the table one day, and my buddy Tommy, who was one of the not the one of the founding idea guys, with me and another guy named Charles, and he was like, what about buy one, plant one? Let's plant a mangrove for
Hmm.
every product we sell. And I said, you know what? That's an incredible idea. So we started growing the mangroves. We started, developing, the best in class practices. And, over time, those kind of, idea guys, kind of fell into their own careers and roles. And Keith and I just kind of kept the torch lit. And buy one, plant one was born. And then I was seeking, I was reading books. I was trying to figure out, okay, what's a good brand? Well, good brands don't probably have junkie in the name, right? You know,
Or monkey for that matter. Although
or
who
monkey,
knows?
right? Monkey or junkie, right? Yeah, maybe you could, maybe we could have done it, but I wanted a four-letter word brand really bad. It was like this number four stuck to me, and I'm sitting on in our beautiful living room here, and I'm sitting with my mom, and I'm like, what's a four-letter word that we can come up with? And we go through. I mean, we used to go through hours of iterations for the brand name. We used to cut pieces of paper up and throw them in a bowl and just try to come up with anything other than mangrove junkie. It was like a
Right.
2 year process. And my mom goes, Mang. And I'm like, nah, that can't be. It's too common, like too many people use that every day. Like, what up, Mang? And sure enough, we looked it up. There wasn't an apparel brand with the name Mang, and we trademarked it, and we started kicking off Mang and our buy one plant one initiative. Started growing some stuff, and then my aunt Sherry is a beautiful artist, and I'm like, Sherry, do you want to take a crack at making a mangrove camo? And then from there, can you take a crack at drawing a fish, with a
Hmm.
camo in it? And she never made a name for herself in the art world. And today she's got her art on hundreds of thousands of people. It's like
Wow.
insane, it's wild. So pretty cool, So that all was the kind of the glue at the beginning, and then from there, there's
Yeah.
a lot more that goes into building a business.
So you first started with apparel, but was always with that buy one, plant one. Were you growing mangroves at your current location? I mean, was that something that either grew naturally, or
Yeah,
had
yeah.
any other
So
kind of
we
nursery?
started, yeah, Keith started testing with salinity and soil type and how do we grow mangrove propagules? We started trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of that, months before we launched the company. And yeah, we found, okay, here's the soil type we're going to use. Here's the salinity, how much salt we want to use. Here's this. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, where can we plant these things? Okay, we can't plant without permits. Okay, so
Right, right. Yeah.
how do we get around permits? Okay, the county's doing projects. Okay, so we're going to call the county and say,
That's how
hey,
it started. It was my next question. So how did you, okay, I get the buy, I
yeah,
get the sell one. That's easy.
yeah,
But how do you go about pounding them? So was the
yeah.
county pretty open to having that discussion with you?
They were. I think everyone was like, these guys aren't going to make it.
Yeah, they probably kind of thought, well, a little mang on the brain, maybe. I don't know.
I can't imagine, myself, 8 years ago trying to have this conversation with no experience in sales hardly or anything like this. And I'm like, hey, we've got these mangroves we're growing. They're only a couple months old at this time. You know, we didn't have very much knowledge on mangrove restoration besides what we have read in peer reviews, which is not very descriptive in any way.
Right.
And we had no hands-on experience. And we're like, hey, we want access to some of these beautiful islands you're building in our lagoon to plant some mangroves. And I think I battered them for about 6 months, and then finally, um, we got a green light. First, we got a green light on a private shoreline on the Earman River, and that was really where we put our first mangroves down in the ground. And
Is that right near where frigates are, or a little
yeah,
further
yeah,
up
frigates
yeah,
up the canal there. Yeah, up
up
the
the
canal there.
canal?
We
Yeah.
put a couple on one of the docks up there to start, and then another little section here, and who knows. And then the county's like, yeah, you can come to one of our projects here and plant with us. And I said, okay, cool. So we came out, brought some mangroves, planted our mangroves down. And then from there, there was like this relationship of, okay, we'd love to be your mangrove supplier. We'd love to grow them for you guys. We'd love to donate them right to the projects. We didn't want money. We didn't want cash. We just wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
And today we still supply mangroves for the county,
It's
so it's an
great.
amazing partnership relationship. We've donated, I think we've donated somewhere in around about 30,000 trees to the Lake Worth Lagoon here. And those are full grown trees, they're 1, 2, 3 years old, depending on the size, and it's been an incredible little partnership here locally. And then obviously as the brand's grown, we've had to diversify where we plant and how we plant and where we go. And there's more to that story too.
Do you do all three of the varieties of mangoes, the black, the whites, and the reds?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So we
Yeah.
grow all three. We really focus in on red mangroves. A lot of the DEP projects, a lot of the government projects focus on reds.
Reds.
Tend to
Yeah.
be the kind of the first line of defense for
Yeah.
shoreline breaks, and then
Yeah.
blacks and whites generally will populate if there's a seed source locally once you kind of get your shoreline established.
Right. Right. Well, just for our listeners, since they're global, and as you know, I'm new to the Florida area, but one of the things that you folks educated you and your brother educated me on, and as I've done a little more research and become involved with places like MacArthur Park, it's just amazing the deforestation that's taken place here with this urban development. And what's the estimate in terms of the number of or the amount of I don't know if it's acres or miles of the mangroves that have been displaced? It's
literally hundreds of miles, isn't it? Or have I got that number
Yes,
wrong?
so they say about 50% of the world's mangroves have been displaced in some regard.
50%.
Yeah,
Wow.
50% is the
Wow.
number, and 1% of that is being lost every year, they're saying. I believe there's some accruitment in new areas that they're not factoring in quite as much right now. So if you actually move up the coast of Florida right now, they're seeing a huge sprawl of brand new mangrove forests happening in Jacksonville and St. Augustine,
Hmm.
along the St. Johns and these different areas where old Spartina grass flats are being taken over by mangroves.
Hmm.
And that's just what we like to call environmental change here at Mang. So things are changing. Our climate's getting a little warmer. We're having less cold spells because mangroves hate cold like we do.
Right.
And we're starting to see places that used to be all Spartina and now we're all mangroves. So it's cool to
Yeah.
see. It's changing the ecosystem. It's going to change the fisheries. It's going to change how things look. So we're getting our hands a little bit muddy trying to figure out what does that mean for those ecosystems.
Yeah.
How are they
Yeah.
going to change? What's going to happen to those local ecologies? Because things are going to change. That's the nature of the world, right? Nothing is steady nor consistent.
Well, it's impact on the ecosystems and the circle of life, but also on the protection of the shoreline, right? I mean, the
Hmm.
mangoes do a real good job, or historically did a pretty good job of keeping these protected. And when a lot of these seawalls and so forth have come in, and I guess that's what's led to some of the islands that have been reforested and so forth. Is the plan and the commitment now in Florida and other places where this deforestation is taking place for more restoration, or is it much more, hey, we need to just create these islands, put it in a new place, and try to get some semblance of mangoes back? What does that look like? What's kind of the policy now?
Yeah, so mangrove restoration is in a few different places right now. Where Mang finds itself in Florida a lot more is more either hurricane replacement after large storms like hurricanes. So replacing shorelines that got completely blown out and
Right.
try to get them seeded quicker so that they don't lose ground. Or secondarily, we're what we call adaptation. So adaptation projects are either areas where mangrove shorelines have been degraded by boat wakes or high wind events or some type of coastal development interaction where the mangroves got wiped out. So we're playing in a newer space of adaptation. That's kind of what the county's been doing with these islands out here in the lagoon. They're building them up from scratch.
Right.
So it's an adaptation to something that didn't exist and now it exists.
Yeah.
So that's the space we play a lot right here in Palm Beach County because we have seawall to seawall. 90% of Palm Beach County is seawall. So when you think
Yeah.
about that, where does nature have a place? And if we don't
Right.
create it for it, then nature's not going to be here, right? And at
Yeah.
a high level, at least.
And restoration, I guess, takes place in, if as I recall, one of our last conversations, in three different directions. You have the county doing what the county has to do, and that's government dollars at work. You have charitable institutions, I guess, that are stepping in and doing that, and you guys are a part of that. But there's
Hmm.
also kind of mandated restorations, right? Now, isn't it true when you're building a new, beachfront hotel or whatever, and there's displacement, you actually have to um, reforest in another area? Is that accurate? Or talk to us a little bit about
Yeah,
how that
yeah,
takes place now.
yeah. So in the environmental world, they call that mitigation.
Mitigation,
So if
right?
you
Yeah.
destroy a mangrove shoreline, say you buy it out, they're going to require you to put credits in another place. So
Yeah.
generally has to be the same body of water in a different place, and the restoration has to be done. From Mang's perspective, we try to avoid people doing mitigation because it still will never, in our opinion, level up to what was
Yeah.
there.
Right.
And that's the biggest challenge we have as we are just coastal creatures. I love the water. Trust me, I love a great water view. There's nothing like an end of day hang out by the water. And we love our vistas. I love vistas. I just, that's it. We're ingrained in that in South Florida. But, having healthy, robust mangroves would be way cooler to see it light up for our fisheries and the other people who live here or creatures that live here, we can call them. Our dolphins, our birds, our sharks, our stingrays,
Manatees. Yeah.
manatees. We have so much wildlife that depends on our healthy ecosystems.
Right.
So we're a little bit one-sided to how we're living along the coast here, and blindly kind of just doing things to do them for the benefit of us without really thinking about the impact that's going to have on our ecological world.
Yeah, yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the business side. This has been fascinating, and as I think you and I know, and from my interest in having had a chance to visit your farm, and also send you pictures of the islands. If I've kind of cruised down the intercoastal and have found that restoration sense, it's been a lot of fun for me. But I don't know much about the apparel line, and so tell us a little bit about that. What folks, what kind of products you guys sell, what kind of team do you have together? Give us a little perspective on the business side.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, every business has our ebbs and flows, of course. But the beautiful thing is, Mang likes to dub ourselves as a restoration apparel brand,
Hmm,
which uniquely
like
puts us
that.
in a place of no one like us. So
Yeah.
from what I've found through research, we're the only apparel brand in the United States of America, unless someone comes and shows me, that's growing their own trees at all, or growing mangroves more particularly, finding our own restoration projects and putting mangroves down in the ground with the community. So we've kind of niched ourselves right in a zone, obviously here in Florida, that's doing something unique, that's different, that has a product that follows it, that can be worn around town for mission, and people can support us through purchasing our product. And our slogan always has maintained, we want people to wear gear that they can enjoy in the outdoors.
Hmm,
So it's UPF 50, sun protective, antimicrobial, something that can be worn around in the Florida hot sun, or even
nice.
anywhere in the United States. Really, you can wear it for all kinds of different weather, and go enjoy the outdoors, and then protect yourself from the elements. The sun is pretty brutal these days, and keeping your skin protected from skin cancer is definitely a more highlighted than your generation, we could say.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I just had a melanoma dug out of my back a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And, I had my dermatologist say, you better take care of that face of yours. I see you driving around in that convertible. Are you putting sunscreen on and wearing a hat? And I'm like, yeah, I should be doing a lot more. But you're right. That sun is hot. So,
Yep.
so you do hats and shirts and SPF and kind of the full gear. Do you sell through your own stores? Do you have distribution and, like Target and so forth? Where can folks
Sure.
find Mang?
Yeah, absolutely. So our main distribution when we started the brand, which takes us back 8 years ago, was we started doing seafood festivals, boat shows, outdoor events, anything that was an event that gathered people. We had no marketing money. We had limited amount of gear. We had no idea how to online market. We had basically, you think about two business owners going in with a little or limited business plan. That was Keith and I, because we never grew a business like this. We had no understanding, and we never had the idea that it was going to be easy, but we stuck with it. And basically, after doing the boat shows for a year or two, we got a lot of interest in the brand. People were starting to support us. We got social media kind of pumping a little bit, where people were tagging us and bouncing back and forth. And then we were able to start, selling online. Started selling a couple shirts a
Hmm,
month, a couple hats a month. We used to set goals. I remember it was like, yeah, if we can only make, $1,000 a month, that'd be awesome. It'd be like these, like today, it's like, we could do that in a couple hours some days. And so we figured out online, how to market online, how to get product in people's hands the right way, how to do the print on demand model for our
hmm,
business, so that we could actually become profitable, because we were getting covered in inventory all the time, and we didn't know how to move it quick enough to get it out of our way. So print on demand was born, and then we kicked off wholesale, all during that period, where we could sell to little bait and tackles and mom and pop shops, and started basically on the ground level selling to these smaller retailers, because we were a niche brand. Those people are always looking for something new, fresh, different than, kind of the big dogs in the industry.
right.
And they were accepting of our mission. Our mission is really what's propelled us. Buy one, plant one, baby. We were going out there and planting mangroves and showing people we were doing it.
Love it.
That was the whole thing. Show your customers the action. So from the ground to figuring out online, and then now we have a great wholesale network. We're selling, to some names like Ron John Surf Shop,
Yeah.
Divers Direct. We're, a lot of the local bait and tackle stores. We've got an REI that just picked us up this year.
Nice.
We're going to be in Abel's, Florida for our women's line, starting to do as they're trying to rebrand and build their brand with some more local brands, and then continuing to kind of just push into different places. You can find us in a lot of zoos and aquariums throughout South Florida and the Southeast, which is pretty cool. So those are always fun places to come check out the brand and the gear, and the mangrove story resonates well there. And
if our listeners wanted to find it online, where would they go for that?
Manggear.com.
Manggear.com. Two G's,
double G.
Right? Double G. I love it. And how many employees today, Kyle?
Today we have 5 employees.
Nice.
Yeah, 5 full time. We actually had 7 end of year last year. We just had our sales manager after 4 amazing years. He left and went to a new company. So I've taken his roles and responsibilities. But in the meantime, it's no big deal, baby. We're back in the seat we were in a few years ago. So it's not a problem.
How do you bring Christ in on the business?
It's been a beautiful story. So about, I'd say January of 2022, a newer friend came into my life. And the first night I met him, I was at a fundraiser and I won $5,000. And I don't know if that was just him coming in the room, and I'm never that lucky. But after that, we connected, and he invited me back to Christ Fellowship. Me and my girlfriend at the time were talking about going back to church and reinvigorating my spiritual life, and she didn't have a deeper spirituality. And we went to church and we started getting back into the Word, and I started going to Palm Beach Men's Group and getting involved again. And it really was the first time in my life that I started to realize that I can have a relationship with the Father and not just be this one-way channel. And I think that's something that I wish I knew younger, was there is a relationship that can be had at a much higher level than me just kind of praying and not really understanding that there's some receiving that can happen through that. And I was able to open my channel in a different way and look at my spirituality much differently. And, I had kind of a divine moment after my Aunt Julie passed away. It must have been October, November. I was going through a hard time. And it was a couple months after she passed, and she came to me as an angel of God. And just this kind of, I don't know, I guess you could say in body, out of body experience. I don't know how to explain it. She was the most Christ-like lady I knew. She was a steward. You cussed around her, and she used to be a drill sergeant. She cussed more than anyone I knew, but not in her later years. She used to kill a 24-pack on the back porch, and she found herself in a place where later in life where she had this amazing relationship with God, and she had scripture and prayer all over her home, and she was like, you got to tithe, Kyle, you got to do this. She was just like always on me. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And she wasn't wrong. And she just spoke to me, and she's the guardian angel for our family now, and God's using her and putting her to work up there. And from that moment on, I just clicked on and said, hey, I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to do things at God's pace, and I'm going to seek God's advice, and I'm going to hand this business over to God and let him guide Keith and I in a better direction, because we've had success, no doubt, but the success has come with so many pitfalls because of just lack of clarity and guidance of where we're going as a company some days. Not that we didn't know what our mission was, but just the internal stuff, the battles that you have, the leadership battles, the this and that. And when you have a sounding board that's always there, that you can access, that can give you divine clarity on all the things you're thinking and wanting, and can heal. I mean, it's like you can move faster, you can see your vision, you can see where you're going, and you can accelerate your business. And God has done that in so many ways for Keith and I.
Awesome. We're just about out of time. We always have one last question,
Sure.
Kyle, that we always ask all our CEO guests, and that's, what kind of career and life advice would you give someone that's listening that, wants to move into their own corner office someday, or like yourself, do that as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go back. One of my great ancestors loved Proverbs, and Proverbs 22. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. And that one sticks with me more than anything every day. When you're not chasing money and you're chasing a good name and you're doing a good thing for the world, I don't think it matters. I think at the end of the day, we can die with millions or we can die with 10 cents. But if we have a good name in our community and we've impacted people, and we've loved on people, and we've tried to do our best every day, then rock on, baby. So keep your word, keep building your name, build your reputation so that people, can admire you in ways, and you can be a good leader to them.
MANG is a high performance apparel and gear company dedicated to coastal restoration worldwide. Through their Buy One, Plant One initiative, MANG plants one mangrove for every product sold. Their mission is to educate, restore coastlines, and change the world one product at a time. Kyle Rossin is a co-founder, along with his brother Keith, twin brother Keith, of MANG. Thank you so much for sharing your journey into the corner office today.
My pleasure, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Hanley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.